that being said, we can go ahead and dive on in. All right, so what was a struggle that you overcame, and kind of what advice would you give to someone who may have been going through something similar?
I I think one of my biggest struggles was just being trans or being like, like not cis. And one of the biggest ones was actually finding out what I identify as. Because for the longest time it was just, I'm like, yeah, like I'm definitely not feminine, so my brain was automatically like go to the other side of the spectrum, which is masculine, and it was kind of like, oh, that sounds right. I had a lot of friends who supported me, which I think was the biggest help. Um, but then it was just educating myself more about like the wide spectrum of genders and finding like where I fit, and then not caring about like a lot of the labels and just kind of be like, no, like figure out how you feel before you try to figure out what you are, because what you are doesn't matter. So it's kind of like, and it was the biggest thing, and it was just finally sitting there and actually letting myself think about it. And that's something that a lot of people don't give themselves the time to do, is to sit and think about it and say, what am I, where do I fall, draw out the board of male, female, everything else, and kind of be like, well, I'm not there and I'm not there. I'm sort of here, maybe there, and just kind of testing it out, honestly, is a huge thing, because it's like, who cares if that's not what if I try to, be like, okay, well, we're going to see how I feel calling myself non-binary for 2 days. And if I hate it, wasn't what I am. And then if I like it, okay, stick with it. So I think it's just the biggest thing is like test new things out, give yourself time, don't try to rush anything. Like don't try to force yourself to figure out what you are. Just let yourself figure it out when you get there, because so long as you're comfortable and happy, that's all that really matters.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. So you mentioned you've been transitioning, and what has that experience been like?
Rocky, to say the least. I got kind of blessed with a more supportive family, not like the highest supportive family that you can get. My dad, for the longest time, was like, I'm not going to call you what you want until you get it changed on your birth certificate. But at this point now, calls me, he calls me he, and he calls me Cade, and there's no like fight with it. My mom helped me get on testosterone pretty fast after she figured it out, and she knew like I was serious about it. I think the biggest struggle is just doctors and the way that clinicals are in medical care right now is it, and just anything general with being trans, it's hard to get started on anything, because you have to go to therapy and you have to get that letter from the therapist, and it's dealing with an endocrinologist that can just go based on their opinion of you on whether they want to actually give you testosterone or not. Like they can say, yeah, I didn't like you at this time, here's some birth control. And I got lucky with mine that luckily like they started me out pretty fast, but I also went to a doctor that wasn't the greatest in the field. So I finally found a better one that's been working with me a little bit more than my last one was. Um, and then it's like insurance issues always come along, because we went to go figure out like a quote for top surgery, and see if we can get that done and see if insurance will cover some of it. And they turned around and said, well, we won't do it until a name change. And I was kind of like, well, we were doing the top surgery for the name change because of my state, they're very finicky. So it was kind of like, well, now we're at a standstill. And then it's like $300 just to file a name change, let alone your court date that you have to go through, and then any other fees that you have to pay for it. So we just never got that process going.
So definitely, I mean, you can have one thing but not have, the other. Like you said, you have a supportive family, but then, doctors are being difficult, or
Yeah.
it's the other way around. So it's kind of a struggle, no matter what. So
Yeah.
So if you could tell yourself, your younger self, one thing, what would it be?
A lot of things. I think one of the biggest things is just don't listen to everything your parents tell you, and just be yourself. Don't sit there and care what other people think about you, and if you know something is right, fight with it. Like don't sit there and kind of be like, like speak up for what you believe in, because in the end it doesn't matter. Like it's a if it makes you happy and it's what you think is right, fight for it because it's what you think is right. Like educate yourself, but fight for it. Don't just kind of sit there and let other people walk on you. 'Cause I'm a doormat.
I think that's really good advice for anybody. So I know this sounds really cheesy, but where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Who knows,
What do
dude?
you hope to accomplish in the
I
next couple years?
I hope to be back in school by then,
Mhm.
and hopefully with a field that I actually enjoy a little bit more. Um, Hopefully no more reptiles, dear God. It's just happy. Like I just hope that because by that time I should hopefully have my service dog. So I'm hoping that by that time I'll be doing better mentally, so that I can start doing better in other fields. So I can start working harder at work, and maybe I can move up with the company and just not be stressed all the time.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No.
Okay.
Brain
All right. Well,
empty.
thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, and that's it. All right. Thank you. All
No problem.
right. Take care.
You too.